While the Senate is a rabble, there is someone actually trying to get some work done down there. Victorian Senator James Paterson. He has released a draft bill to change the Marriage Act because in less than 48 hours you'll know the results of the same-sex marriage survey. And if the Yes campaign is victorious, then Parliament is expected to vote on a change before Christmas. And hang on, isn't there already a draft bill in place? Well, you're right. WA Senator Dean Smith, he has a bill drafted ready to go, one that we've spoken about at length in the past, and he's preparing to introduce this to the Senate on Thursday. Now, this is the bill the PM said that any change to the Marriage Act was going to be based on. Dean Smith's bill. It allows for religious ministers to be exempted from marrying same-sex couples. But James Paterson's bill, it goes one step further. It allows for wedding-associated businesses, so cake makers, limos, venues. They can conscientiously object to same-sex marriages and refuse service to gay couples arranging a wedding. That's discrimination, isn't it? I would have thought. Well, the bill would override state and territory anti-discrimination laws, meaning businesses would not be subject to civil litigation if they refused to help same-sex couples. It was tagged as greater religious protections for those who oppose same-sex marriage. I've got Senator Paterson on the line. Senator, good afternoon. Thanks for your time. An eventful day in the chamber.
It sure has been.
Have you seen or heard anything more ridiculous than what's happened over the last 6 hours?
This is fairly exceptional, I have to agree.
All right, well, come December 1, let's just get into dual citizenship very quickly, just to put all our cards on the table. You got anything to worry about before then?
No, I'm
or
not
after
solid.
then?
Thank you.
You're solid?
Yeah.
Look, can you get any work done in the Senate? I mean, real work that affects the majority of us?
I know it doesn't seem like it when you watch from afar, but actually a lot of things still happen even amid the chaos. Lots of legislation still passes. A lot of it is uncontroversial. Today there's been certainly a lot of debate about citizenship in the chamber, and we haven't dealt with the normal business we would. But in an ordinary sitting week, even when it's messy in Canberra, we still get a lot of things done. Yeah, okay. Well,
just on that, what about the threat of hanging over the head about legislation not actually being lawful if passed by those who aren't able to sit in the chamber?
The High Court's actually looked at this in the past, and while ever an MP is not yet proven to be invalid, their votes stand, and if they're subsequently proven to be invalid, their past votes still stand as well. So there's no danger that any legislation will become legally invalid, and people will just have to remove themselves by resigning if they're found to be not lawfully there.
All right, Senate obviously works a bit different to the lower house. How do you think they should resolve it down there? I mean, we're hearing by-elections. We know John Alexander, there's another by-election set for Bennelong. We're going to have Barnaby Joyce's in New England early December. I mean, it's not going to be by-election, surely.
Well, hopefully not. I hope we're starting to get to the bottom of anyone who doesn't have only Australian citizenship. But there's only one way to handle this, and that is if there are serious questions about a Member of Parliament, they need to be referred to the High Court, and the High Court has to make the call. There's lots of people saying that, they've got legal advice that says X, Y, or Z. Well, legal advice is not binding. A High Court decision is, and only the High Court can declare whether someone is validly elected or not.
If we get too many, should we just have a general election and get it done with and clear the deck, so to speak?
There'd be a lot of messiness and constitutional problems from having an early election before it was normally scheduled. I don't want to bore your listeners, but the House and the Senate elections would get out of whack. We'd have a House of Reps only election. So I don't think we should go down that path.
All right, because that's why I wanted to pick your brains on this, just to see where everyone's sort of standing, sitting, what they're thinking about it, what implications there might be. Because, as you're right, it would throw it out of whack. But throwing by-election up after by-election after by-election, we could potentially we could have up to a dozen by-elections.
Yeah, that's certainly the case. I mean, there is an unlimited amount that there could theoretically be. I don't think there'll be that many. I think the number of people who there are serious questions to answer are really, you can count on one hand, there's only a handful, and so I think there'll be only a minimal number of by-elections. All
right, Senator, let's talk about your bill. Let's get into that. I just wanted to clear what the hell has happened this morning over there. But your colleague Dean Smith, he's already compiled the bill about legalising same-sex marriage. Why do we need another one?
Look, Dean's bill has many strengths and is good in many ways, but I don't think it goes sufficiently far in protecting religious liberty, freedom of speech and freedom of conscience in particular. Dean Smith's bill says that if you are a religious minister or a civil celebrant with religious beliefs, then you can decline to solemnise a same-sex wedding. But religious freedom is not limited only to priests and rabbis and imams, religious freedom is something that all Australians enjoy. It's a universal human right, as is freedom of conscience and as is freedom of speech. So religious freedom extends to the congregation and it extends outside the church doors as well. So I think we have to have broader protections for all Australians.
I just fear you might be legalising discrimination.
Well,
because let's say you wouldn't legislate against this for an interfaith or interracial couple getting married.
No, and no one is asking for us to do so, and no one proposes.
So what's the difference?
The difference is that we're going to find out on Wednesday that I expect between 30 or 40% of Australians have a traditional belief in marriage as it is, and those people deserve to have their views protected. It would be wrong to compel those people to participate in a marriage that goes against their beliefs, but that is potentially what could happen if we don't change the law.
Don't you think, though, it sets a bit of a dangerous precedent? I mean, if you're looking at someone's sexuality or gender and able to discriminate, and I'll use that word again, discriminate against that? Only
in a very narrow sense, only relating to the wedding ceremony and reception, not in a normal area of life. So to take the example of the wedding cake baker, which some people use, it would not be lawful for a baker to refuse to bake a gay couple a wedding cake for a birthday, for example, but they could decline to participate in a same-sex wedding.
Getting into semantics here, aren't we?
No, I think it's a pretty important distinction. This is not wholesale discrimination. This is a right to conscientiously object if the marriage that you're being asked to supply services to is inconsistent with your beliefs.
What's the next step then, James? I mean, Senator Smith says he's going to put his bill to the Senate on Thursday. When are you preparing to put yours up?
I haven't made a final decision about that. I'm looking forward to having a discussion with Dean about hopefully a shared path forward. I expect that there'll be some aspects of my bill that Dean would not like to support, but there may be others that he may be willing to support, so I'm looking forward to having a conversation with him about that.
Would the party room have the final say on that? Because putting two bills up to me just sounds a bit counterintuitive, counterproductive.
I'd be
slowing the process down.
I'd be very open to having a party room discussion, but to be clear, this is a free vote. So all coalition members and senators will be able to make their own decision about which bill they support and whatever bills are introduced and whatever amendments they want to vote for. So there's no sense that people would be bound here. Even the Labor Party is having a free vote on this.
Would it slow the process down if there were, if not just two bills, if there were others who are coming in? And I mean, there may be 4, 5, 6. How many of the bills to be debated on this? That would slow the process down.
Well, I don't want the process to be slowed down at all. I think we have to deal with this effectively by Christmas if there is a yes vote on Wednesday. But my bill could pass